All right, what's up? It's Dr. Will James reporting to you, and it's time to go over Sinners. Um, if you haven't seen it, don't watch this because it's going to be a whole bunch of spoilers. This is a movie review for the movie Sinners by Ryan Coogler, starring Michael B. Jordan, and there's a lot to go over. So I got some notes. I hope I don't miss anything because I took a lot of notes. I watched this movie three, four times. Um, and I posted a video saying, um, I really want to speak to Ryan Coogler because I don't know if I'm catching things that aren't supposed to be like a part of the message or, reading too much into it. But when you're a deep thinker, a film like this leaves, so much to unpack. There's so many things in there that are like hidden that you can find something, take something away from. You know what I'm saying? So it's a real good film, and we're about to get into it. So, firstly, opening starts off. It's 1932, Clarksdale, Mississippi, in the beginning. All right. So we see that it starts off is talking about the history of people with the ability to make music, connecting life and death, people who are really good at it. It talks about how, in different cultures, they're called different names. The Choctaw people call them fire keepers. West African culture calls them griots. And a griot in West African culture is a storyteller, a singer, a musician, um, or oral historian, right? They, these are people who train to excel as orators, lyricists, and musicians, right? So lyricists, that makes you think of like hip hop, people who are real gifted, with rapping ability, a Jadakiss, a Jay-Z, a Nas, people like that, Rakim, right? They would be griots in West African culture. You know what I'm saying? And this gift can bring healing, but it can also attract evil. So in the film, the main griot is Preacher Boy. He's real good with music. He's real good at singing. Young, he has that gift, that voice, that like God given voice that when you hear it immediately, you like gravitate towards it, right? But evil can also gravitate towards it, right? So keep that in mind. So it starts off with that, sort of um opening, but we don't see anything yet. When we first see someone, we first see Preacher Boy. The film starts off in reverse chronology, reverse order, right? So we see the very ending of the film like last, right? Um, that's sort of what we see. We see um Preacher Boy driving up in the car. He enters into the church. They're all wearing white. Um, you could clearly see that something is wrong with Preacher Boy, and they're having like flashes of like evil things pop up on the screen. And they're singing "I'm Gonna Let It Shine." Um, and his father just says to him, like, leave your evil ways alone, leave the sinning alone, and give up your guitar. And he hugs him, and that was the opening, and that's like the hook to hook us in. Um, so they have your attention right away, right? And it goes immediately from that to um, Sam's Preacher Boy is singing while picking cotton. Now it's 1932. They're not, slaves in the field picking cotton, but that's what they did in the South in the 30s, 40s, 50s, even in the 60s in the South. They were picking cotton. I know my father grew up in the South, and my father is, you know, an older gentleman. He grew up in Jim Crow. He picked cotton. Um, so that's something that they did. And he was singing, and it reminds you of like Negro spirituals. Like if they didn't tell us the setting, if they didn't tell us the time period was the 1930s, you would have probably thought it was the 1830s, where you see the black people in the fields picking cotton, and the way he was singing, and he was saying something like "Somebody Take Me." Um, and it really gave you that field of like Negro spirituals. It was real powerful. Um, it's showing like, the labor, the spiritual setting, and the cultural atmosphere is what you get from the opening scene, seeing him walk through, um, like from the cotton field back to his house or whatever, and he's talking to his mom. Um, from there, he um, he goes back into all right. So he goes in the house, and then he goes to um, the church. He goes back into the church, right? And I gotta find that because all right. So he goes back in the church. His father had brought his guitar like out of the house into the church so that he could see him, before he went anywhere. Think, his father knew him, whatever. So his father tells him, like, I want you to preach tomorrow's sermon with me. So, they're a Christian family. So, and this is like Baptist. Um, so this is a Saturday. They're gonna have church on Sunday. Um, so he tells him to oh almost he tells him to read the verse 1 Corinthians 10:13. And 1 Corinthians 10:13 says, no temptation has overtaken you except what is common to mankind. And God is faithful. He will not let you be tempted beyond what you can bear. But when you are tempted, he will also provide a way out so you can endure it. This verse assures believers that they will not be tempted beyond their ability to cope, and that God will provide a way to overcome every temptation. Now, what's important to note here is that in this verse in Corinthians, the speaker is Paul at the church of Corinth. And in Corinth at this time, they're speaking to these people in this community because they were struggling. Um, the sins that they were struggling with were like idolatry, sexual immortality, drunkenness, um, and some people were justifying their sinful behavior as permissible under the gracious, loving, forgiving care of God. So if you've seen the movie, that's exactly what we see. We see drunkenness, we see um idolatry, we see sexual immortality. That's all over the film, right? And we see people who just don't have a care in the world. And it's just also what we see a lot nowadays. We see a lot of people who will sin Monday through Saturday, and then they get up and those are the same people you see on church on Sunday, right? And Corinthians is the New Testament. You got a lot of Christians who think, oh, since, once Jesus came and he died for us, now we could sin, we could do whatever we want to do, and whatever we do just going to be forgiven. So it's like you could live any way you want to live, and it doesn't matter because, Jesus died for our sins, which is wrong. That's the wrong way of thinking. And the movie is sort of like anti-Christian, and I'm going to like get into it. It's not anti-Bible, it's anti sort of Christian, right? One way you notice that, and I'm trying not to hit the same point twice, but I think this is a good point to bring up now. In the film, they use things that are, popular in vampire folklore. Like you had to invite the vampires in, they couldn't just come in. That's one thing that's popular. They said you could kill it with a stake through the heart. Um, they said that you could get the garlic. She threw garlic juice, pickled garlic on the vampire at one time, and it was stuff like that that was um, making the vampires go away. Also, sunlight. They couldn't be exposed to too much sunlight or they would die. So things like that were in the film, but also in vampire folklore across. could always back vampires up. That's very popular in vampire folklore, but that wasn't in the film. And the reason being, that's like the main form of symbolism for Christianity is the cross. So I maybe I'm reading too much into that, but that's one thing that I thought about. I think Coogler, I think he kept that out of the film for that reason. Um, so uh he's talking to his father, he read that verse, then his father tells his father he gotta go. His father says, "Well, you gotta go, that's more important than being in the house of God." He said, "I've been working all week and I want to get out the church." Um so he wanted to go out and get his sinning on, but then he said, "I'll be back in time for morning service." Um then we see him go outside, and it's his cousins out there, the Smokestack twins, which are, the main characters both played by Michael B. Jordan. Hardcore gangsters with a fierce reputation. And we see that often in the Black community. You see that good cousin or that side of the family that's raised differently, but y'all all still family at the end of the day. When you got that cousin or cousins who are, a little bit gangster, raised a little bit differently, y'all all still family. So, um, so let's get into the Smokestack twins. And this is after we see the Smokestack twins standing in front of the old mill. They said that they had left Mississippi for 7 years. They had went to Chicago. They were working for like Al Capone, doing business with the mafia and stuff like that. So they're standing in front of the old mill waiting for Mr. Hogwood, some old racist white guy, KKK member. And they said, they know it, but they said that they left. The only difference really between Mississippi and Chicago was tall buildings versus the plantation. And I think that's important. Like, sometimes people get caught up in the city life or way things look, but racism is all over. You know what I'm saying? And they even said they'd rather deal with the devil they know, because the same devil was in Chicago. So yeah, we see that. And then we see one is wearing blue. One of the twins, Smoke, is wearing blue, and Stacks is wearing burgundy reddish, right? And I think Coogler did that on purpose because Smoke is representing the more positive, more the twin that you want to favor. And Stacks is the one he's more lost. They're both lost. They're both sinners because they're gangsters, they're doing all types of stuff. They're not living the path of righteousness. They're gangsters, they shoot people, they do all types of stuff. But Smoke had his stuff together a little bit more, and I'll explain. So Smoke, first of all, the Smokestack twins, their name comes from a song, right? So Coogler did that on purpose, right? What's the song? What's the name of the song? Where is it? Where is it? All right, here it is. The Smokestack Twins name comes from a song called Dark Road Blues by Willie Lofton. All right. So um in the film they place an emphasis on, we know it's on music, but it's really on the blues, the Delta blues. And Dark Road Blues is a Delta blues song by Willie Lofton. And in that song, he says Smokestack Twins. Well, he says Smokestack. So that's where the Smokestack Twins name comes from, Smoke and Stack. So it says, crying smokestack, lightning shine like flower gold. Now don't you hear me talking to you, pretty mama? Oh, smokestack lightning, shine like Pharaoh gold. Crying I wouldn't get in trouble. See nobody saw. So that's where their name comes from, right? But it's like a double meaning to the names because when you watch the film, Smoke always wants to smoke and he dies smoking. Like, and his name is Smoke. And he was also with the smoke, meaning the action, violence, stuff like that. He was more with it than his brother. Stacks was more about stacks, meaning money, right? So let's go over the difference between the brothers. So Blue, he's winning the blue. He's like the strongest twin. Um, he's the one. He shot the two dudes outside the store. If you remember that, he told her not to lean on the horn. He told the young lady to lean on the horn if anybody was looking at the table, the car, his vehicle too long, and the stuff he had, the merchandise he had. Um, Smoke killed their father for abusing Stack. So Stack was the one that was being abused, and Smoke killed him, right? He said, Stack said when he woke up, he was the father was damn near buried. And I think that's important because that brought me to a note that upbringing, you growing up in a broken home, growing up in a certain environment, it raises gangsters, right? Their environment helped make them, shape them into who they were. And that's very important because you see that they're smart, they're intelligent. But when you're in the wrong environment, you tend to use it for the wrong reasons, right? When Smoke was outside the store, he was teaching the young girl how to bargain. He was saying, you never take the first number. Like he was saying he was going to pay her something like, you know, 25 cents or 15 cents um, for every 10 minutes or something like that. And he told her, like, you never take the first number. And the whole film, we see them bargaining and stuff like that, making deals when they were dealing with the Asian lady. So, Smoke had a black wife. He had a black wife, Miss Ann. They had lost their child. She had gave Smoke the mojo pack that protected him, right? She gave Smoke the mojo pack that protected him. And in African spirituality, the mojo pack, also known as a mojo hand, is a lucky charm or amulet found in African American folk traditions, particularly in the hoodoo spiritual practice. So in the film, we see a lot of hoodoo and voodoo. And she gave him that. He was protected with that, and we actually see that in the film. At the end, when his brother's a vampire and they're fighting, if you pay close attention, when Stack had the upper hand, he couldn't bite him because Smoke had that on his neck. It's not until the end of the film when he takes that off, then he gets shot and then he dies, right? So I think that's important. Smoke is the one who also told Preacher Boy to go to the proper, do the proper thing. He told him to go live with some proper folks. So when Smoke and Stacks were being abused, they left and they went to a community that was all black community. It was founded by free black slaves. It was a thriving community. The mayor of that community, the person in charge of that community, told them that they had to go because he knew that Smoke said he knew their father. That's important to note. He said that the guy knew their father and he knew that their father was evil and he just knew that it had to be passed down. So that's another key message right there. Like everything is a message. We'll be here for like 4 hours if we go into detail with every part of it. That's why it's such a great film, because it's like a son's fall, a son getting the reputation of his father, whether good or bad, right? They couldn't even move forward in their life and do the right thing because of their father's reputation. Smoke told him to go live with them amongst, righteous people. He said, "You leave us evil folks alone. You leave us to do this type of stuff." Smoke was trying to tell Preacher Boy to stay out of juke joints. He telling them like, stay away from this. You got a gift to do the right thing with it, to make music for, God. He told him to go live with the proper black folks. Preacher didn't want to do that, right? Preacher didn't want to be like his father. And that's another telling point, because he said to Smoke, more people know you and more people know y'all, the Smokestack twins, than they know my father. So that brought me to like modern day, where people are chasing popularity rather than righteousness, right? People want to be popular. They want to be well known rather than being righteous. You know what I'm saying? People wondering about how many followers they got and stuff like that on social media and stuff like that. Jesus had 12 disciples. You know what I'm saying? So it's not about popularity. It's about being righteous. But he liked their popularity. He liked that they were well known. And sometimes people get caught up in that. So let's look at Stack. Stack wearing the red. He's the one, he was talking to Sam Preacher Boy about sex. He was talking to him about oral sex. And in the film, they were calling it licking the cooter and all of this stuff. He lied on God in the film. He told Sam that the guitar that he gave him was from Charlie Patton. And he said on God. And he was lying. It was their father's guitar. He slept with the white woman, Mary. He's the one who got bit by a vampire, because in the film, Mary is the first one who becomes who enters their establishment as a vampire. She's the first one. So he got bit. Stack is the one, the money hungry one, who wanted to do the jukebox that night. So Smoke and Stack were talking, and Smoke was like, man, we could do it like a week from now. We could plan more. We could organize. Stack says, no, let's do it tonight. So that put everything into play by them doing it that night, because then they were doing it too fast. They didn't give people enough time to prepare. Yeah. Then Stax is the one who taught the white woman how to fight. Stax is the one who taught the white woman how to fight Mary. And she's supposed to be, she's like mixed. She said that her grandfather was like half black. So she's like a mulatto, but she's more white than black. She easily passes as white in the film. And, if you see the film. But I think that was a big thing too. When Stack was trying to kick her out of the jukebox joint, the juke joint, he told her like, "Oh, get out or whatever. I have one of these women, one of these sisters get you up out of here." He was like, "She said you taught me how to fight. I could kick every sister in here, I'll kick everybody's ass in here. And that just brings me to teaching the white woman to be stronger than the black woman. It's like, I feel like there's a message there with that. Could be me. Y'all can let me know, but I feel like there's a message there with that because it wasn't there for no reason. Oh, you taught me how to fight. I'll kick all of these chicks' ass and you know it. That's not there for no reason. And then Stacks is the one who who bit the black woman. He bit his sisters. He bit Smokes lady, Miss Ann. And if you notice, when she got bit, she was saying, "No, not you. No, not you," which is saying that the the black woman fallen from the hands of the black man. She'd rather anyone bite her, anyone take her down, anyone kill her than him. Right? And when thinking about the whole grand scheme, looking at how Stacks got bit, it's like it reminds me of the whole Shannon Sharp situation. Because the white woman got bit by the vampire. Then when she came in, the first person she got was the black man. First person she got was a strong black man because they were strong. But Stacks wasn't mentally strong enough. He didn't have the willpower, and men need willpower. He even said to her, like, "Oh, I don't want you, you somebody else's." And she played in his mind. She got in his mind. She said you could rob banks and trains and all of that, but you can't steal this for one night. And he fell for it, and it led to his demise. Um, so in the film, we see the Choctaw, the Indians, and there's some culture to that, cultural history. We see with that when uh I forget the name of the first vampire. I think his name is Remus. He's like he flies. We see him fly and like drop into the scene, and he's running from the Choctaw Indians. And the Choctaw is Native American tribe. It has a rich history and culture. Originally from southeastern woodlands of Mississippi and Alabama, they are known for their agriculture skills, strong clan structures, and traditions like stickball. And Choctaw culture includes beliefs of both good and evil spirits. They don't actively hunt evil spirits in the way some cultures might, uh, but they do believe in appeasing or warding off evil spirits through rituals like fasting, dancing, and spells, as well as using medicine men. Here's a fun fact. Choctaw mythology featured characters like the long evil being Nalusafalea, who could be witch hunters, and the white people of the water, Aquanoic, who could capture humans and convert them. And that's what we saw. The evil white vampire. Um, so he was the white guy, Remus, is running from them. He knocks on the door of this couple, this man and woman who he ends up seeing their clan robe in the back. And he's like, yeah, you got to help me. I'm running from these Indians. They're trying to kill me. They killed my wife. And obviously he's lying. He's a vampire, but they don't know that yet. Uh, but they believe him because, he's white and they want to help protect him and their clan. Um, the Indian knocks on the door and he's like, do you have this vampire in here with you? We're trying to help you. Um, he didn't say vampire. He said, and I felt that that's interesting. He didn't say exactly what he was, but he's like, look, there's somebody in here. If the person's in here, you need to let us know because he's not who you think he is. That's what he said. And then they said in like some Native American language or whatever, like, yo, the guys that were with him, he's like, yo, yo, let's go. Because the sun was going down. And then it was going to be, too dark. And, they would be at a disadvantage at that point. It's a vampire. You can't just shoot him and kill him. So they left. And, he bites the husband while the wife is at the door. If you all seen it. I don't think anyone is sitting through all of these spoilers. So then that's how we get that. 3 vampires. Where do I want to go from there? Yeah, so they stole from the Italian and Irish mafia. I felt that was interesting. They were working with the Asians. So in the film, it's like part of the film is like colored versus non-colored things because you had like they were working with the Asian couple and the family in the store. They were like building the signs for them for their little club, and they were help serving the drinks and stuff like that at the club. But in the end, the Asian lady is the one who gets them killed because you had to invite the spirits in, and she invited the spirits in. So I felt like that was sending a message too. Like, Black people, stop thinking you could just team up with everybody because not everybody is going to move accordingly, and they may put you at risk because they don't know how to control their emotions and stuff like that. Her husband had went out to the car and he got bit, and then he was trying to, get her outside, and she was just breaking. They told her like, yo, you only gotta wait till like morning. You only gotta wait till sunrise. And she couldn't make it. She invited them in, got everybody killed. Delta Slim in the film. He played the blues and he was a drunkard. He wanted to perform for alcohol only. So I felt like that was important. Caroline, the married woman, she was out there fornicating. So this is all tying into the Senate. They told a story in the film, Delta Slim. He had a friend named Rice. They made money singing. Slim spent all his money on alcohol, and his friend was trying to, use the money in a more intelligent way. He was going to travel somewhere to like open up his own church, he said. He took out his money. He took all the money with him when he got a $2 train ticket to go to like North Carolina or something to open up a church. And someone saw him, on the train with all the money, and a white guy lied about him, killing a white man and raping a white woman to get raping a white woman to get the money. And they lynched him, and then they cut off his manhood. So That's sort of self-explanatory. We know that that happened. Um, that happened historically. If you look up the stories of like Jesse Washington, Emmett Till, there's that always making up lies on the black man related to SA, and always feeling threatened by the black man. Um, Black man can't earn an honest living. If he has too much money, they're gonna hate on him and make up a reason to get him out of here. Um, as soon as Sammy was old enough to drink, you had the white woman Mary ready to get him a bottle of whiskey and turn him into a drunkard. Um, and I see like the message I got from that is just people being ready to drink too early. Like you see people drinking 13, 14 years old. I saw that growing up. And then those people turn into drunkards. They get put onto it too early. And it's in some cultures, it's just what they do. And it's not even just, black cultures. It's some, Irish culture, um, different white Hispanics, black Hispanics, different people, different cultures. It's not just black people. Um, Sometimes they just drink too early. Um, a key point when Delta Slim was talking to Preacher Boy, he said that Christianity was forced on the black people, um, but the blues was created. Like we created the blues. So I felt like that was interesting coming from a sinner like Delta Slim is painted as, and saying that to Preacher Boy, um, trying to make it seem like the blues is ours, Christianity is theirs, type of thing. Um, Music is power, conjure spirits from the past and the future. There's a scene in the movie where they're playing the blues, but it goes into the future and sort of the past and different cultures. Like it goes from the blues into rock and roll into some hip hop. You see people twerking, you see Asian culture, you see African culture. It's a whole intertwine of different cultures with the music. You see like the good and the bad associated with music at that time is what I think um Kugler was trying to do, showing how it could be good or evil, how it can be used, how it can be cultural, it can be beautiful, it can be inspirational, or it could just be evil and be over sexualized and violent and stuff like that. You saw people gang banging and doing different things while the music and stuff was going on. So that's the messaging that was in my mental at the time. Um, while Preacher Boy comes up to sing, and he has this explosive performance. Um, then the roof was on fire, and that reminded me of the phrase "the roof." The roof is on fire. We don't need no water. Let it burn. And then it pans out, and you see the three vampires looking at the performance. The roof wasn't literally on fire, but in the film, the roof is on fire, and then they were like sort of out of the building. Um, what else? So then the vampires walk up, right? Three white vampires. And what I got from that when they walked up is they're obviously they're the devil, they're white supremacists, they're racist, but they're lying, right? So they come up there, they're talking to them, they're saying, like, we just want to drink, play some music, dance, have a good time. They're saying all of the things that Black people do and Black people care about, right? Music, food, dance, some drinks, have a good time. They thought that they could get in with that. They think that's all Black people care about. Smoke is like, nah. So Cornbread, the big guy that Cornbread Stacks got out of the field to be their like bouncer, he went and got he told the young man who was chilling with him by the door to go get Smoke and Stack. Smoke doesn't want to let them in. Stack, he's not really sure. He wants the money, so in his mind, he's not sure. Smoke is real adamant about it. They're not getting it. So they say that they're, after they're trying to plead their case, saying that they'll do, they're just here for food and all of that. They say, we're musicians. Hey, I'll show you. And they start singing. They start singing the song "Pick Poor Robin Clean." Now, the funny thing to me is the meaning of the song "Pick Poor Robin Clean." The song is about exploitation, loss, and survival. Robin represents the vulnerable and naive person. Pick clean means take everything from. And they're singing that song. The funny thing is, while they're singing the song, they sound kind of good. And even Cornbread is like, "Oh, these white folks is all right." And Stacks, he's like snapping his fingers. He's liking it. Like, "Oh, yeah, they're singing. They sound kind of good." Smokes is just looking and he's not phased. So again, that's the difference between Smokes and Stacks. And again, Kugler did that on purpose. He could have made both of them wear blue, both of them wear red. They're supposed to be twins. Nah, blue is symbolizing the one that's more good on a more black. I'll say it that way. So the song tells about exploitation, loss, survival, being cheated on, betrayed, and I felt that was interesting. So they don't get let in, and then, but it's two meanings there. It's they were playing in their face, literally, but then like figuratively to me, it's like people playing in your face. But that's another thing. When in Black culture, because like I said, Cornbread said they sound kind of good. In Black culture, people are quick to invite people to the cookout. If people, when they see white people who dance well or sing well or do things that we do well in Black culture, people say, "Oh, they invited to the cookout." You need to be careful who you invite to a cookout, because then you're inviting the devil in. Stop inviting everybody just because you are impressed. You don't know them. I don't care what color they are, what race they are. You need to be careful who you invite to a cookout. But especially if it looks funny. Like the whole situation looked funny. Them walking up, and that's what Smoke was saying. Use your brain. This is 1930s. They walked past a whole bunch of white establishments to come to theirs. And he's like, "For what?" He's like, "You go back where you came from. You go to one of those establishments because we don't want no trouble." Stack's not understanding that. Smoke told him, like, "Yeah, what if somebody look at their lady too long, step on their shoes, spill a drink on them? It's going to be a big deal, big issue." It's not the same deal when we amongst each other. So that wasn't good enough for Stacks because they were low on their till, they were low on money. Uh, the black people who were in there weren't paying with cash like that. They were paying with credits and stuff like that. And Stacks was saying like, look, this is for us, by us. So Stacks had a point there. He was like, look, these like there's a part of this scene where a beer was 50 cent and the guy had 30 cent and he had like 2 coins from like some local deli or something like that. Stacks was like, that man worked hard for that 30 cent though. Let him come in here and have a good time. Let them feel appreciated. They can't go nowhere else. This is Jim Crow South. Whites only, blacks only, or colors only. So Smokes was like, look, I'm not a smooth talker, or I don't know about Hoodoo, because this is when he was talking to Miss Ann and Stacks. They were on the same page at that point. He's like, I know business though. We won't have no business if we keep letting people just, pay us short. And that just reminded me of when black people don't have their money straight, but they want to have fun. It's just like these people who go out to the club every weekend, but they broke. You don't need to be out there to do that to have fun. I understand you working hard and stuff like that, and you need to have some fun, but you need to get your coins right first. So my mind, like my mind was thinking the whole time watching this movie. Like you could find something at every point, but he wasn't listening. So in order to get some money, he's talking to Mary, the white lady, the one who's white passing the mulatto, and he's like, "Yeah, you could go." He's like, "Yeah, we go check up on the white folks to see if they have some real money to spend." So he sends Mary out there to talk to them to see if they got any real money, and that's when she gets bit. So she has to be invited in, and Cornbread, who's at the door, he doesn't know that when she went out there, she got bit. He just knows her face. So he says, yeah, come on in. That's when she bites Stacks. What I found interesting at this point in the movie is that the devil infiltrated when black people were fighting each other. The devil infiltrated when the black woman was out there acting a fool. The black married woman was out there acting a fool. So at this point in the movie, the lady Caroline was putting on her show and she was dancing and she was tearing it up and everybody was intrigued. And then two of the black men, a bunch of the black men, they had jumped on this one dude because he was at the dice game and he was rolling with loaded dice and he was cheating them at the dice game. And then the dude, he was cheating out of the money, tried to like take the dice out of his pocket and he cut him. So Smoke, he had to address the situation. He ended up taking a knife from the guy and then they were beating the guy up. They were jumping him. During that time is when Stacks gets, bit by Mary. And I found that interesting. And then the whole dice game thing. We love a good dice game. Black people, we love a good dice game. Right? So I was just thinking about that's the time. Smoke told Preacher Boy to go get his brother. He went to get his brother and he saw them in there look like they were they were having intercourse. The funny thing was, or the interesting thing was, when Smoke went to get his brother and then he sees him get bit, he shoots at Mary or whatever and she can't die. She's a vampire. While they're sitting there, Smoke's like, oh, I thought they were making love. He literally said, I thought they were making love. That just made me think about how people confuse sex with making love. Just because you are having intercourse with someone, there's a difference between having sex and making love. You make love to people you are in love with, someone you're in love with. It feels different. It's different than sex. He saw them having sex. He said, I thought they were making love. Mind you, Mary is married to someone else. Now, she says she didn't want to, which that was interesting too. She said, I didn't want to marry the white man. She said, I wanted you. I wanted to be black. That's what she said. I wanted to be black. What just brings me to, if you marry black, you black type of thing. Especially if you're a mulatto. It's like you picked a side. That's what I took from that. What else? What else? What else didn't I address? So, the main vampire, Remus or whatever his name is, he's like an Irish vampire. And when Mary went outside to get them, they were singing a different song. They were singing Will You Go Lassie Go? And that's a traditional Scottish Irish folk song. Um and the lyrics invite a loved one to join them in gathering wild, um symbolizing love and companionship and nature. Um so I found that interesting that they were singing that song, if and that's the meaning of it. And Mary walked out at that time. I didn't know if that was some connection there or what. Um, so I already spoke about how the all the people who got bit end up getting back into um the the building. Oh, people speaking back to people playing in your face. There's a time where they're outside the door and all of the people in the building can speak to, are like they're like having a back and forth with all of the vampires. So like Stax is talking to his brother, is talking to Smoke. Um the lady, the Asian lady whose husband has been bit, her husband is talking to her. Um, and then the Irish guy, the main vampire, Remus or whatever, he's talking to all of them outside the door. So again, it brought me back to people playing in your face, like you don't know that they're evil or they have evil intentions and stuff like that, lying to you. And he's like trying to convince them with, they're like trying to convince them, come join us, come to the good side. It's good here, like you could live forever. Um, even though you know it's not all of that. You know what I'm saying? You know it's evil. Um, the people are somewhat getting swayed. You see, Smoke is somewhat getting swayed by Stacks because it's the people you love most saying it to you. So that just reminds me of how sometimes you can love someone so much, but you gotta let them go because they're evil. And they can say things that sound good, but it's evil. All right. So even when you know better, someone like how we see Smokes portrayed as someone who's physically strong, mentally strong, has a brain, he was getting swayed after knowing that Stacks was, evil, representing evil. Um, so that's what made me think of that again. The Miss Ann lady, she's very strong in the movie. She's very mentally strong, and she's the one who's into the voodoo hoodoo, and she's the one who's helping keep them alive and on their toes. She's the one who knows about all of the stuff surrounding like the vampires and everything. She's into that, right? She's the one who threw the pickle garlic on Stacks while he was in the building already. She's the one who told them what they need, and she's the one who made them stand in a circle and chew the pickle garlic to make sure that no one had turned into a vampire. So you see, the black woman is extremely strong in the movie, right? And she's the only one in the movie who, we don't really see in her portrayed negatively, really. But someone like her is had a child with a gangster. What business would she have with Smoke? And that's interesting because at the end of the movie, when Smoke is dying, it's like a, a metaphor, but at the same time, like Smoke is smoking a cigarette, and she's like, as he's crossing over to from life to death, he's like having an imagination. In his imagination, he sees Anne holding their daughter who has passed, and she's like, put that cigarette down. I don't want to get none of that smoke on her. So it's like, if you're gonna come over to this side and transcend to this side, I don't want your bad side to get on her. And then also literally the smoking the cigarette, you can't hold a baby while smoking a cigarette. That's what I was thinking that meant. Um, I also found that while they were talking to them at the door, though, that's what made me think of this. While they were talking to them at the door, the Irish white vampire Remus is saying like, look, give us Preacher Boy, we'll let you all go. We really just want him. And that brings me to like, because he's, once you bite the person, you can have like their memory, their gifts, and all of that stuff. So that just makes me think about a lot, like stealing from Black culture and stealing our gifts and our ability and just taking advantage of us in the music industry. There's so much to unpack with that. Um, that's just was interesting to me. So, what else? When Preacher Boy is getting, remember where I said it was like anti-Christianity, when Preacher Boy was about to get bit by the vampire, he said the Lord's Prayer, and Remus was like saying it with him. The vampire was saying the Lord's Prayer with him. He's like, "Thy will be done." He's like, "Yeah, that doesn't work." But the Mojo Pack, we seen that really work. Um, and that's from like African spirituality, Yoruba spirituality in African culture. I think it's called Ise, I say, or something like that. Um, but the Lord's Prayer wasn't working. Wasn't working. But I feel like that's interesting because faith without works is dead. You can't just pray when you want to. You can't just, and a lot of people pray when bad is happening, but you're supposed to pray when good is happening. You're supposed to live a certain way if you want God to hear your prayer. You can't just be full of evil, doing all types of evil deeds and pray in the midst of evil when something bad happens to you now. That's like you're fake. And then you expect a miracle to occur. You know what I'm saying? If you're not living a righteous life, why would God reward you? Why would God spare your soul when you're not living righteously? So I found that interesting. That's probably why it didn't work. While this is happening, before Smoke comes to rescue Preacher Boy, we see him fighting his brother. And it's later revealed that he didn't kill his brother. He didn't kill Stacks with the stick through the heart. And this just reminds me that not all kinfolk his kinfolk because his brother was evil. He was no longer his brother, and he still let him live. He said he promised that he would leave Preacher Boy alone. We see at the end of the film is 60 years later, 1992, because Preacher Boy, in spite of all he went through that evil night, he decided not to give up the blues, not to give up that music, not to go live with the righteous folks. He wanted to go stay doing the blues. And he had a career with it and he was successful. He had hit records, hit songs with it. But he didn't give it up in spite of what he went through. And that's the kicker at the end of the movie. If you leave the movie theater too early, you'll miss that part when when Stax walks in with Mary and they're like modern vampires in the 1990s, 1992. They've been alive the last 60 years and he didn't know it. They're not there to harm him. They let him, play a song for them. They give him $200. But Stax tries to convince him, like, hey, I could make it to where you could live, forever. You could play this blues music forever and all of that. And Preacher Boy is like, nah. Now, mind you, Preacher Boy is like, this is 60 years later. Preacher Boy is like, 80 years old now. Something like that. He's like, nah, I've lived long enough and, I've had a good enough time here. I don't mind passing. Because I think, it's saying that, sinning and evil could look good sometimes. They're young. They're vampires. They're not aging. Right? They come in there with the young hairdo. They're a young couple. A young mixed couple. Black man, white woman. Young. But it's not all that it seems. And that's what Stack says. He's like, hey, I haven't seen my brother in 60 years. I haven't seen the son in 60 years. They're vampires. They don't come out they don't only come out at night. And that right there in itself is symbolic. The evil, the freaks come out at night. The evil comes out at night. You out at these clubs, you out in the streets. That's the nightlife, right? Where all of the sinning, the fornication, all of that stuff takes place. So I felt that was interesting. Like, I don't know why he would leave him alive. I don't know how he knew that he would keep his word on his promise when he was a vampire. He wasn't the normal Stax at that point. If y'all know the answer to that, y'all can let me know. But yeah, these are just my thoughts, me unpacking the film. I may do another one of these. I'll watch this over and see what I missed or something like that. But y'all can let me know what y'all think in the comments. This is my Sinners review. Peace.